In 1791, we had the Second Amendment, a clear, bold statement. Fast forward to 20th century, we have got the National Firearms Act, the Gun Control Act, and so many more. Each one adds another layer of control, and it's like watching a slow-motion robbery of your rights, orchestrated by the government itself. As the government has slowly chipped away our Second Amendment rights, YouTube has steadily tightened the noose around its creators. They say it's for our safety, it's for our well-being, but we know better. It's about control. Control over what we say, what we see, and what we believe, whether it's the government regulating our firearms or YouTube regulating our thoughts. The message is clear: fall in line or face the consequences.
I've been around YouTube for nearly 20 years. Started with the adpocalypse. The rules were just pertaining to advertisers, being advertiser friendly, that kind of thing. And so it wasn't too bad. It was just certain videos couldn't be monetized. And then they started striking videos and deleting videos. And then YouTube started giving me channel strikes for them because they implemented new rules. I was scared a few times the channel was going to get totally deleted because of videos I had made 6 years prior.
So now showing a fully automatic firing is not only demonetized, but you can get age restricted and basically blacklisted from the entire algorithm. They don't like fully automatic weapons anymore. Despite the fact that I'm an 0702 FFL with an SOT and I actually have access to legal machine guns with all the proper licensing and paperwork, I just find it really hypocritical that the people at YouTube that I've talked to say that, they don't think people under 18 should have access to be able to see videos of fully automatic firearms. Also, despite the fact that a lot of the original users of this gun back in the day in the war to help protect this great country weren't even fucking 18.
In this video, we will explore how the US government has gradually imposed restrictions on our right to bear arms. We are mainly going to focus on the laws that were created at a federal level, not the state laws. In 1927, under President Calvin Coolidge, the Miller Act was passed, banning the mailing of concealable weapons. A small step, but the ball was rolling. In 1934, under President Franklin Roosevelt, the National Firearms Act was passed as a part of the New Deal for crime. The law aimed to tackle gun violence by imposing a $200 tax on certain firearms, like machine gun and silencers. Back then, $200 was a lot of money, and all that gang violence was during the Prohibition era. The government banned alcohol and put the blame on guns. So much for the land of free. In 1938, Federal Firearms Act was passed under the presidency of President Roosevelt. The law required gun manufacturers, importers, and the dealer to obtain a federal firearm license. It also banned convicted felons from purchasing guns and required sellers to keep the records. So now you needed government's blessing to sell firearms while they laugh after violating your privacy. Isn't that lovely? In 1968, things got even tighter. President L.B. Johnson pushed through the Gun Control Act of 1968 after a series of high-profile assassinations. This law banned importing guns with no sporting purpose, imposed age restriction, and required serial numbers on all guns. Suddenly, the government is very interested in knowing exactly who had what. In 1972, President Nixon's administration created the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Yes, we are talking about ATF. To control the illegal use and sale of firearms, to enforce federal firearm law, because who doesn't love more bureaucracy? 1986 was the biggest year in the history of gun regulation. Under the presidency of Ronald Reagan, the Firearm Owner Protection Act was passed. The law mainly enacted protection of gun owners, prohibiting a national registry of dealer records, limiting ATF's inspection to once per year, softening what is defined as engaging in the business of selling firearms, and allowing licensed dealers to sell firearms at gun show in their states. It also loosened the regulation on the sale and transfer of ammunition. So far, it sounded good, but this bill split the time into pre-86 and post-86 era. The bill confined gun control measures, like expanding the Gun Control Act of 1968 to prohibit civilian owners from transferring of machine guns made after May 19, 1986, and redefining silencer to include part intended to make silencers. And just like that, it ended the dream of millions of Americans to own a new automatic firearms, unless you are filthy rich and can spend $30,000 to $40,000 on a gun that was manufactured during a time when your dad was running in diapers. Fast forward to 1988, another law was passed, the Undetectable Firearms Act, making it illegal for manufacturers to import, sell, possess firearms that couldn't be detected by metal detectors. Airports and courthouses needed some peace of mind, apparently. Good thing they stopped all the plastic gun crimes we heard so much about. Fast forward to 1993, we saw the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, which was passed under the President Bill Clinton. It was named after James Brady, who was injured during an assassination attempt on Reagan. This law required background checks for gun purchases and created the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS, because more background check surely means fewer crimes, and that aged so well. 1994 is the most controversial year of the gun regulation history. Clinton signed Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, which included the assault weapon ban. The law banned the manufacture and sale of certain military-style assault weapons and high-capacity magazine. It was a temporary measure, but a sign of how the government could step in and say, no, you can't have that. That was shown during this period. And the latest law was passed on June 25, 2022, under President Joe Biden. He signed the Bipartisan Safer Community Act. This law expanded background checks for buyers under 21, required more sellers to get a federal firearm license, and closed the boyfriend loophole. Step by step, more regulations and more control. And these were the years when your right to bear arms was under attack by the government. And should we really be surprised that the YouTube is following the government's footstep when our leaders have spent centuries refraining the art of restriction? Is it any wonder that corporate America is taking notes now? YouTube's demonetization and censorship policy are just the digital age version of legislative outreach. Whether it is defending your right to bear arms or your right to speak freely, remember that freedom is never given, it's taken, piece by piece, policy by policy, and it is up to us to demand it back. If you enjoyed this video, well, until YouTube decide you shouldn't, like, subscribe, and share. Stay strong, we are in this together.